Aggressive. That is what you would call not just how this car looks, but also the strategy behind its India debut. It is the second AMG model to be built here in the country. Mercedes-Benz India has been very proactive the last few months, and this is just another example of that. The Mercedes-AMG A35 builds on the 4th generation A-Class family, and like that car is available globally in hatch and sedan avatar. In India, we get both as sedan only now. The A35 is the true entry model in the AMG lineup, and while it's not full-blown mental like most AMGs are, it is still pretty racy. An AMG has to look the part, and the A35 is certainly different enough from the regular A sedan. I'll tell you how, but before that, I want to quickly make a point. I wish Mercedes-Benz India had gone with like this all-black kind of a package. It would have looked more menacing instead of all this chrome garnish and handles, to have a black matted out kind of look. Maybe all-black wheels too, though I have to say these AMG alloys, they are pretty sharp, pretty good looking. All right, so different bumpers, obviously, different diffuser, and you've got the tailpipes at the back that are different too. But in the front, the grille is a little bit different because this one has 2 fins while the regular sedan has just 1. It is the AMG grille, so it has the badge. And the overall look as it is on this car is so aggressive. On the A35, it becomes even more so. It's almost ferocious looking. Some of that has to do with the hood, because what you see is a slightly raised hood for that impression of more power. And it also kind of comes up on the ends to really give extra muscle to an already more muscular fender. That is where that sense of power really comes from visually and makes the A35 different from the regular A-Class sedan. The car does not scream AMG from a mile, but yes, looks plenty aggressive and mean. The multi-beam LED headlights are sexy, and the taillight motif is my favorite new element. The A35 turned heads everywhere I drove it, and even though its dimensions may seem compact to you now, think back to a C-Class from say 12 or 15 years ago and things were not very different. Honestly, the compact dimensions only add to its sporty character. The A35 is coming in 6 shades: white, 2 silvers, black, the grey with me, and a denim blue, and you can get it in the bright yellow seen at the A-Class sedan Goa press drive on special order. So the A35 isn't your showcase AMG product. In this particular range, you do have the A45 and the A45S. They use the purebred AMG award-winning 4-cylinder engine. This engine, well, it's closer to the A250. But I'm not complaining, because what this allows is for an AMG product to become more accessible. And that's why I think it's a smart strategy played out by the company in bringing this variant to India and then assembling it locally as well. That puts it in a sweet spot on pricing. And you know what? May not be able to push it as hard as an A45S, but as far as you can push it, it is pretty precise and still a lot of fun. So let's get that point about pricing out of the way, shall we? I reckon that Mercedes-Benz will launch this car at about 58 lakh rupees. Expect just one variant with everything loaded into it. Yes, that is not pocket change. But suddenly, someone considering a fully loaded C-Class sees a compelling bet with an AMG sedan. Yes, that is something to think about. And scoff if you will. I know it's not for everybody, but no AMG is. Now, if you're still confused about what the A35 nomenclature is all about, well, let's put it for you in relative terms. It's like how at BMW you now have the regular sedan, then you have the M performance version, and then you have the M car. So in this case, the A35 would be akin to an M performance. It's the A45 that would have been the full-blown M product, in this case, the full-blown AMG. Which is why the car doesn't sound like a typical AMG, and it's not as nuts as a typical AMG. Yes, those cars are a little maniacal, they're a little bit crazy in a good way, and that's the only element you miss on this car, even though, like I said before, it is fun to drive. And the other thing you miss, the sound. It's certainly not as loud and crazy sounding as most AMGs are. So it tries. There you can see. You get a little bit of a, well, growl if you want to call it that. Luckily, at the further end of the tacho needle, you do get just a few pops in Sport Plus mode. The car uses an AMG refined 4-cylinder motor that comes from the regular A-Class lineup, but only on the A220 and A250. While in India, we are getting the A200 with a smaller 1.3-litre engine. So there is ample separation between the two cars. Even so, the A35's motor makes a whole 80 horses more than the similar engine on the 250. The gearbox is quite nice and quick, and even though you miss the growl of an AMG, you still get the quick shifting AMG transmission feel. The standard 4MATIC or 4-wheel drive system does a good job of giving you front wheel bias, and yet sending enough traction to the rear wheels. Mind-blowing, reality-altering A45S hot hatch in Germany, it was kind of inevitable I would make comparisons. And yes, now having driven both extensively, I can say this. The comparison is not only unfair, but now I understand why it is not relevant either. The A45S is at the extreme edge of performance for those who want that kind of car and have the means and roads to drive one. The A35 is more real world, especially in the India context. But boy, is that vertical slat AMG grille on the A45 so much sexier. Now the steering and the suspension are not what you'd get on the A45, but they are still a big leap away from the stock A-Class sedan. So you get that sense of agility and sportiness that you're looking for. The sports suspension, the sports seats, they all add to that exciting dynamic feel that the car does represent and present, but that steering just should have been a little bit stiffer. This is not a family car and yet will meet the daily driving requirements of many. That adaptive AMG suspension sure helps that cause in everyday conditions, not just in dynamic ones. It can also use regular fuel and does not need the pricey high-octane stuff, so it is a practical AMG then, dare I say. And while it's most fun in Sport or Sport Plus modes, it remains reasonably frugal when being driven sedately in other modes. The car has a very nice ride quality though, and it handles really well too. So in the Indian context, again, smart move to bring this one because it's easy to drive. It's easy to convey the sense of performance that you're trying to. Yeah, I think people will like this car. The cabin is plush and well finished. The sporty black theme gets enhanced by the use of sports seats up front with the Dynamica upholstery and the embossed leather steering wheel. The rear is reasonably roomy and legroom is not bad. You get the high-end Burmester sound system, huge touchscreen displays, connectivity, the MBUX interface with virtual assistant, and active park assist, besides a whole host of other features, including everything standard on safety. So I really do look forward to the A35's market debut. I hope it meets with a ton of success so that it spurs more such experiments from not just Mercedes-AMG, but also the rivals. This is not just a normal 3 Series from BMW. It is also not just a powerful variant of the 3 Series. It is a car that has been developed with some serious intent. Yes, BMW engineering has gone flat out and come out with a car that truly delivers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new BMW M340i xDrive. It is BMW's only 6-cylinder 3 Series option and comes with 4-wheel drive as standard. There is a lot that is different about this car versus the regular 3 Series. So again, it is not just a variant with a different engine. It gets a different steering, different suspension setup, exhaust and brakes. It gets M-design wheels and brake calipers, sportier bumpers, and that snarling mesh grille that really gets your attention. Power is up by over 40 bhp compared to the previous generation 340i, and the M badge only indicates an M performance variant. This is not an M model. That would be the M3. And that's a whole other story on what this 6-cylinder motor can do, but that is for another day. Now, when I drove this car 2 years ago, I remember telling you about how it's a brand new straight 6 developed by BMW. It's not just an incremental enhancement over the old one. And what that gives you is obviously better performance and much better response time. So the car instantly catches on to what you want from it, what you need from it, and all of this has happened mainly. There's lots of changes in the engine, but the big change is in the turbocharging. The entire system has been reworked, and it includes now a steel exhaust manifold, which just helps build up more pressure, so you get that punchier performance much quicker. Yes, this car is fast, very fast, and stays sophisticated throughout. Throw in the quick gear shift, you got the paddle shifters for added excitement, and the extremely precise steering. I mean, I'm at wit's end to tell you what I like most about this car. It's rare that happens because there are so many things. The 500 Nm of peak torque is a delight. To some purists, the fun factor may drop due to the all-wheel drive, but it gives you more precise handling and corrects for any inaccurate steering inputs. The xDrive system is also the latest iteration, and it maintains optimal power distribution between the front and rear axles. The M340i will still keep a rear wheel bias so that it stays true to the BMW character.
BMW engineers really focused on that sound. The note that you get from the engine is just so fantastic. It's growly, it's satisfying, it's got this deep rumble, and yet it just gives you the sense of very refined performance. That's something that just needs to convey immediately to you how dynamic this car is, what sort of character it has, and I have to say, job well done.
The first time I drove this car was at the Portimao track in Portugal. It was wrapped in camouflage, and yet that grille had really stood out. The M Sport exhaust and Sport Plus mode were my best friends that day. The thing that stands out about the M340i is how, a few years ago, we would have readily accepted this as an M3. I cannot imagine, therefore, how much edgier the actual M3 will be. The current 7th generation 3 Series has great ride quality, though a tad on the stiffer side. On the M340i, it is even stiffer, but that stiff ride complements its performance. The car sits lower by about 10mm too. It gets a new lift-related damper control and also has the M Sport differential that is electronically controlled. The adaptive M suspension with electronically controlled dampers is just sheer genius. In India, the car drives in with 18-inch wheels. The cabin is very sporty and very well finished. You get M treatment all around with the sportier seat belts, sill badge, and even in the instrument cluster. As expected, being the flagship ensures you get all the bells and whistles on the M340i, from the sunroof to the virtual displays and even the large touchscreen with connectivity and more, all standard. The M340i is all set to be launched in India in just a few days. But what is great is to see the car being built in India too and not coming in as a hugely overpriced import. There is no true rival to it in the segment right now, though eventually we will have the next generation Mercedes-Benz C43 and maybe, if we are really lucky, the Audi S4 too.